Welcome back to Yaffee Live. I am Tennessee's voice of reason. As you know, we have a lot to talk about on the show today, including what's going on in the Tennessee legislature. So let's get to that right now. Brandon Lewis is joining me. He is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. You can read that great publication and see all his videos and everything else at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Hey, glad to be here, good buddy. Excited to talk about the news.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot going on, especially with the assembly that's going on right now, including this, which seems pretty popular among Tennesseans, I'm sure, but there's a resolution banning a statewide property tax in Tennessee that has passed out of a Senate committee. So talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, property taxes, in my opinion, and this is an opinion that is shared by most conservatives, are evil. It's like you can never get rid of them. You pay your house off, and you just forever owe money. But there are a lot of states that have state-level property taxes, and so that could happen in Tennessee at some point in the future. So what has happened is they have passed a resolution. This is for the second year to amend the Tennessee Constitution to effectively ban the General Assembly from permitting statewide property taxes. And, you know, all Republicans voted for it, and the Democrats voted against it. And during 2024, they had already passed a similar resolution. And so if this year's resolution passes with a two-thirds majority, which I assume it will, it means in 2026, when you go to vote, there will be a question on there that says something like, do you want the government to rob you of your savings in old age? Probably they won't word it that way. But it's preventing the state from being able to do that, which is a good thing.
Now, from what I understand, the state does not do this now. This is to prevent it from doing it in the future?
Absolutely. You know, there are always more taxes and very rarely fewer. And so this is just putting a roadblock in front of future legislative bodies should they wish to overturn that. So
let me get this straight then. The Democrats on the committee are voting in favor of possibly raising property taxes in Tennessee?
Well, I mean, you look at what Democrat bodies have done all across Tennessee, Memphis, Nashville, other places. I mean, they raise property taxes, it seems like, or some other kind of tax about every 3 or 4 years. And so there's a lot of runaway taxation at the county and the city level in Tennessee. And, you know, one thing they're trying to do is make sure we don't have it at the state level, too.
I mean, they're basically proving the proponents of this right by voting against this resolution. They're proving why this is needed, because apparently if Democrats ever get more power in the assembly, they might actually implement a statewide property tax, because they're already showing that they're kind of in favor of something like that. So in a way, they're proving the point, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, they always want more money for every single solitary government program, even if that program is failing, has a poor track record, even if putting more money into the program doesn't seem to impact the results in any fashion. So, you know, taxing and spending is something that Democrats love to do, and we know that for a fact, as is evidenced by what's been going on with Doge and finding, you know, the billions and billions of dollars of absolutely wasted and unaccounted for money. So we got enough of that going on in Tennessee, and if we can prevent some of it in the future, that'd be great.
So it sounds like we need a Tennessee Doge, is what you're saying? I mean,
well, I would love to see one. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money wasted in Tennessee government. You know, if you don't believe me, go down to the DMV off of Bonnie Oaks Drive. Try to get your something done with your license, and look around at all the folks that aren't doing anything. And it's like that in many departments and city, state, and county government. And so we could certainly see probably some cuts in Tennessee, and the taxpayer wouldn't notice the difference.
I feel like our next governor should appoint you as the Doge, the head of Doge. Would you take that? Like, say Marsha Blackburn wins or something, governor in a couple of years, and she goes, "I'm creating a Doge, and I'm going to appoint Brandon Lewis." Would you take that job?
Well, first, that is a pipe dream. I tell too much truth about too many things to get an appointment. If you want to get a political appointment, you've got to lick the boots, You've got to shake your head and say yes to everything, no matter what it is. And you have to defend, any and all reprehensible votes or behavior that are contrary to the platform. That's how you get appointments. You don't get appointments by telling people the truth about Republicans' voting records or governance. So I don't think I would ever get the nod, but if I did, I would love to help.
All right, fair enough. I'm speaking with Brandon Lewis. He is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. So another bill that's making its way through the legislature just passed out of a Senate committee. It's a bill that would limit Tennessee governor's emergency powers. I'm guessing this is in response to what happened during COVID, but talk about this a little bit.
This is fantastic. And, honestly, during COVID in Tennessee, the legislature should have done its duty as a separate legislative branch and say, hey, we're putting people out of business. We're trying to close houses of worship. We're canceling holidays. All the stuff that happened, we're pushing masks and vaccines and social distancing. We have no medical proof that any of this matters. But our governor did it, and Cameron Sexton, Randy McNally let him do it. And the sad thing about having to do this is, number one, it's a reminder of the epic failures and the lack of conservative moorings in this state during COVID. But the second thing it shows is because this has been brought, I think this may be the third time this bill has been brought, and it finally just now passed. And I think maybe it's because Bill Lee is a lame duck. They see him going out the door, and they're not as fearful of him as they used to be. But essentially, it would prohibit orders, proclamations, or rules issued by the governor under his emergency management powers from suspending or conflicting with any parts of the Tennessee Constitution. So it's a final roll call vote, came in 8-1 in favor of recommendation. Of course, Jeff Yarbrough was the lone dissenter. He was a Democrat. And then Chair Richard Briggs, who was almost a Democrat, although he's a Republican, gave a conditional yes vote as he thought the bill has issues but needed to be passed out of the committee. And Mr. Briggs is one of the many Tennessee senators at the state level that wrote that scathing letter that everyone should get vaccinated and the vaccines were safe and they stopped transmission and everything else. So it doesn't surprise me that he kind of had to swallow his pride and vote yes on that one.
So it sounds like, though, you're optimistic because it's just passed out of committee, but you think it might pass the full assembly?
Yeah, most of the time, here's how it works in the General Assembly. Nothing gets to the floor that is not rubber stamped by leadership. Nothing, ever. It gets killed in committee. The floor votes are almost ceremonial. They are almost ceremonial because they don't want to have a floor vote, have things get out of committee, and then lose on the floor. Now, it could happen in certain circumstances, but to my knowledge, I don't think I have seen that happen in the last 4 years that I've been covering the legislature, 4 years plus now. So, no, once it gets to the floor, it's pretty much passed. So the fact that this gets out of the Senate is positive, and the Senate is always in Tennessee less conservative in committees on average than the House. And so we got far more, a higher concentration of rhinos in the Senate than we do in the House. And so if it gets out of the Senate, in most cases, the House companion bill will make it out if it's a conservative bill. And
of course, you said there the lone Democrat was the one who voted against it. Democrats just can't get past the idea that, all these restrictions were great during COVID. They just can't admit maybe that was a mistake.
No. And, people that are on the left, they love power for power's sake, and they never got to taste more power over people's lives and livelihoods than during COVID. And I think most of them, and many Republicans too, yearn for that to come back again. And it just amazes me how quickly people forget. I mean, the folks that made all those bad decisions in Tennessee are still at the head of the government. And you'd think people would have thrown them out on their ass for that. But excuse my language. I don't know if you need to beat that out.
No, we don't.
Okay, great.
You're fine.
I didn't use one of the words that would get you in trouble with the FCC.
No, not yet. Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative. I want to talk about this story as well real quick. We had some good news out of the U.S. Supreme Court where they have opted not to hear an appeal on a Tennessee drag show ban, banning drag shows and stuff in front of children. And it looks like Tennessee has won this.
Yes, it's pretty exciting. I've said this before. It is a weird statement of the times where you have a very small minority of the population that are very vocal and very politically engaged that say, yeah, we definitely need men shaking their junk in front of kids' faces. It is absolutely essential to the development of the child. And they argued in the case, a Memphis-based gay theater, Friends of George, in 2023, that it limited their free speech and had a negative impact on them, not letting kids go to these, what are basically, pornographic shows. And so they're able to now enforce these laws. I think that we even saw a lot of these places where you have these little pockets of liberal folks that are in red counties, like up in Blount County with Maryville College and a few others. They were trying to be basically sanctuary facilities or governments for this type of behavior. And now I don't think that you will see any more of this in Tennessee. And if you do, I think Skrmetti would probably take action. Yeah,
so Skrmetti's doing a really good job. I mean, I've been here about a year and just looking at everything he does, I really like him. Would you agree with that? Are you a fan of his?
He's a lot better than the last guy. I can't even remember hardly anything that the last guy did that was what I would call proactively conservative. And he was not nearly as strong an advocate for states' rights as Skrmetti has been. So I've been impressed with him. He had there's a few things that he's come up with, but specifically as it relates to emergency powers during COVID that I didn't agree with, which I think is not constitutional. And I think, this bill that just got passed will help with that. But aside from a handful of things, like, he has been on average very good.
Yeah, I was reading a quote here that he said on this. He said, "Free speech is a sacred American value, but the First Amendment does not require Tennessee to allow sexually explicit performances in front of children." It's amazing that the one time the left will really try to protect free speech, or they'll say they're protecting free speech, is when they want like to indoctrinate children on a lot of this stuff. That's the one time where they're like, "Oh, it's free speech," but then they want to shut down a bunch of other speech that they don't like.
Yeah, everybody's version of free speech often has to do with what they prefer, unless they've got some kind of principle in mind. And I have a principle. I don't like hearing leftist rhetoric or speech, or some of the far right extreme stuff. But I would much rather hear that and be uncomfortable, or to be offended, or to be appalled, than to live in a country where we lose that First Amendment right. And so I'm all for free speech, short of, some things that are, inappropriate culturally. And I think it's important to have cultural standards and some uniformity in a country. So I'm all for free speech, but, putting kids in those types of situations is not a good thing.
Yeah. Did you see as well that the Tennessee Supreme Court sided with Tennessee in terms of being able to ban obscene language on license plates? That there were some arguing that they had free speech rights to put obscene stuff as their license plate number and letters. I mean, it's kind of the same type thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to live in a state where they're like, okay, we're gonna stand up for decency. It's what makes Tennessee one of the more attractive states to move to. It's why we have such a huge influx of blue state refugees coming this way. And so I hope they keep up the good work in this area. We've got a lot of work to do on illegal immigration. We've got a lot of work to do on transparency and even free press access. I mean, as Donald Trump is allowing more conservative news outlets to come into Tennessee, Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the House, has banned all conservative media outlets from being in the press corps and just attending press conferences. So we're behind Trump in many respects with leadership like Sexton, and you got to be careful what you say around him because he wears a wire. He'll rat out anybody if it'll get him out of trouble. And so we've got some things that aren't quite going in the direction that we need him to, but we're making headway in other areas.
Brandon Lewis, founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Read it every day, TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Subscribe. It'll show up in your email news box as well. Brandon, appreciate it. As always, we'll talk to you again in the future.
Yaffee, can I just put in one final reminder?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
For the HC, Hamilton County Republican Party reorganization is tomorrow. Not tomorrow, it's on Saturday. If for some reason you're a Republican and you think you voted in 3 of the last 4 primaries, and you want to participate and see how your county governance works in the Republican Party, go to activatehamilton.com. That's activatehamilton.com, and I'll be there. It's kind of a long day, but you get to see how your party works. And so if you are a stalwart Republican and you'd like to join us, we'd love to see you.
Awesome. Sounds good. Great reminder for people. Brandon, appreciate it.
We got to get you into Hamilton County, buddy, because we need your help.
I know. I appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon.